The U.S. and China are having a public spat over the appearance of the Dalai Lama with President Obama. President Obama has boosted, massively helped one certain segment of our economy. Chevrolet, we've got the update on the boycott and possible indictments that are happening right now. And the African American community in great danger. Racists are rejoicing. This is the voice of resistance.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
This breaking news, the president of Chevrolet, the U.S. auto manufacturing giant, has been indicted by Russian authorities. You see, Chevrolet is using their commercials to promote homosexual propaganda. Those commercials, which aired during the Olympics here in America, are also airing in Russia online. And it's a criminal act to promote the homosexual agenda where minors, people under 18, can see it. And so the Russian authorities are asking that the president of Chevrolet be sent, extradited to Russia to face charges. The unofficial word in the street is that the U.S. government is negotiating a trade. You give us Edward Snowden, we'll give you the head of Chevrolet. There's even talk about him being given over to the Cossacks. But anyway, I'm making this up. I'm making it up. You knew I was making it up. But here's what I'm not making up. Chevrolet betrayed its family customers. And they did, in fact, as you know, we've covered on the show, they did run ads during the Olympics when small children were watching, including mine, promoting the homosexual agenda and actually showing a clip from a part of a so-called homosexual wedding complete with a false clergyman. Well, I think we owe Chevy something, and I'm asking you to join me. Boycott Chevy. Now, I want you to know the first pickup truck that I ever drove was a Chevrolet C10, a 1970, 3 on the column. My dad owned it, the first truck I drove. And I love, in fact, let's take a look at some of Chevy's products, shall we? For those of you who are interested in saving money at the gas pump, there's the Chevy Spark and the Chevy Sonic. Nice colors too. Don't buy them. But wait, some of you are more into the mid-size, kind of hip feel, such as a Chevy Malibu. That black it's shiny, or the Impala. The Impala, you can go all the way back to the 60s and think of some of the SS's that they made, the Super Sport Impalas. We had guys in our neighborhood that were gearheads that loved the Impala. It's really simple what we need to do. Don't buy it. But if you've got to break down with the revived Camaro. What a gorgeous vehicle. Or the Corvette. The only American sports car to be sold consistently overseas is the Corvette. Boycott. My wife and I owned, go to the trucks and vans, my wife and I owned a Chevy conversion van. It was wonderful. We will not buy another Chevy conversion van until Chevy apologizes for having betrayed its customer base, betrayed parents who had their children in the living room watching their nonsense, and pulls the ad. Chevy can bring this to a quick end because the momentum to boycott them is growing. That new truck, the four-door that they're advertising with the Silverado package, some really good deals. Boycott. 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 And here's how you can contact them. Go to our website, voiceofresistance.com, click on the Chevy button, and you can contact them through that website by email, by Twitter, by Facebook, telephone, even snail mail if you want. Now, one of our viewers contacted us, and her name is Dawn, and she contacted Chevy. Here's what she said to them. I am shocked that Chevy would just slap a gay marriage ad up on our family's TV screen during the Olympics. I love my Chevy minivan, but I hate your politics. If your support of homosexual practice continues, you will not see me buying another Chevy. So Chevy responds, Dear Dawn, and by the way, I got to tell you, this is really downplayed. The night that we saw it, my wife went right to her computer and got one of those chat windows with a Chevy propagandist, employee, and my wife was just livid. And the pre-made responses were, we support diversity, we support the LBDJ, or whatever they are, the lesbian, whatever it is, the LBTJ. How can I not get that right? I just can't take them seriously, but I should. So anyway, my wife was going at it, and they had one propaganda response after another, defending themselves. Now listen to their response. Dear Dawn, thank you for contacting the Chevrolet Customer Assistance Center. We appreciate you taking the time to write us regarding our Chevrolet commercial. We respect and appreciate your feedback, and we do consider various viewpoints from all of our customers as we continue to develop advertising for our product. Thank you again for taking the time to let us know how you feel. And then they go on to say, if you want any more information about a Chevrolet product, call here, go there. This is so ratcheted back so quickly. They have to be coming under so much fire. And by the way, there's a lot of godly Christian owners of Chevrolet dealerships, especially throughout the South. You better believe that some of those owners are picking up the phone and calling up their rep in Detroit and saying, have you people lost your mind? What are you doing to me? They will boycott me down here. They've already called me and told me, you're hurting my business. And we don't have any complaint with the fine employees of Chevy or with the godly people that own Chevrolet dealerships. And as I said, I've owned Chevy products. But this is a frontal assault on the family. It's a frontal assault on the laws of God himself. And if we cannot muster the strength and the valor and the conviction to boycott this company and teach them a lesson, and to teach every other huge corporation that's watching this right now saying, okay, what do we do? What do we do? If we don't have the moral fiber to fight them on this exact field of battle right now, then we are dead in the water. But I don't think we are. I think there are people out there who are ready to resist evil. That's why you're watching The Voice of Resistance. Go get them.
You have two choices. I mean, you can try to raise your children by design, or you will raise them by default. There are no perfect parents. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. If we have a plan, we've got a better chance of getting it right in the long run.
There is something deep within the heart of every human being that longs for parental acceptance and approval. When does a boy become a man?
Get a group of guys around and ask them that question.
I don't think there's a certain age. Some men stay boys their whole life.
I would say, 16, 18 years old.
Wow, that's a good question.
When they get bar mitzvah.
Well, I think when he has a child. So I just became at 56, 56 years old.
Without the power of the Holy Spirit changing us and giving us power over our sin, we can't hope to be the dads that our kids need us to be.
The numbers are out from 2012, and frankly, I think that the Ku Klux Klan and all Americans who hate African Americans will sleep a little bit easier, at least in some parts of the country. It turns out that in New York City, 42.4% of the babies killed by abortion are African American. They're black. But here's what's even crazier. There were 31,328 black babies killed and only 24,758 born. That's what? More than 6,000 dead. Then born, alive, okay? This is, in part, black genocide. And there are a lot of white elitists who aren't members, per se, of the Ku Klux Klan. But, for example, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, our Supreme Court judge, she had this to say in an interview a couple years ago in the New York Times. She said, frankly, I had thought that at the time Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth, and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of. So that Roe was going to be then set up for Medicaid funding of abortion. I mean, she was being honest, right? There are some populations out there, I won't say who, African Americans, and so we don't want that many of them, and so we were hoping it would kind of reduce their numbers, and if that didn't work, well, we'll set up Medicaid. We'll make the taxpayer pay for it. What's her motto? It might be something like this: kill early, kill often. Or it might be something like, why spend $30,000 a year housing a young African American male behind bars when for $400 of taxpayer money you can end his life and see that he's discarded in a landfill? For those of you who are even remotely not in tune with irony or with dark sarcasm, I hate child killing. I hate black genocide. I hate the genocide of any race. And I despise what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said. What she said was evil. And it was perhaps an unguarded moment. Maybe she read it the next day and thought, had I lost my mind? What was I thinking that I actually said what I believed? But to my African American friends who are slaves to the Democratic Party and slaves to their agenda, don't you see it? They use you as a voting bloc. They use you. They've got you trapped on the government dole, all right? You're a part of the federal plantation, okay? President Johnson said it. He was going to make sure that most blank N-words voted for the Democratic Party for 200 years by creating housing, food stamps, Medicaid, Head Start, all of these things, government giveaways. But they're turning around and they're helping to kill your family. They're killing African American babies in numbers that are way out of proportion. 1 out of every 3 black babies dies in an abortion mill, but African American women only make up 12% of the population. That should only be 12% of babies being killed are black, but instead it's 3 times that. Don't you get it? They're using you to stay in power, but they're also inciting you and baiting you to kill your babies because they don't want too many African Americans. I mean, what was the line that she used? We didn't want too many, in particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of. So let's get some Medicaid funding. I mean, who wants to live like Jesse Jackson, who said when he's walking in the street and he hears footsteps coming up behind him, he is relieved when it's not an African American male. That's maybe why he and Ruth Bader Ginsburg are in agreement. That if we've created this welfare state, we've created these fatherless homes, we've helped create the atmosphere where gangs can thrive, right? And now there is this disproportionate number of young black men involved in crime and in prison. Maybe the solution, according to them, is just kill a few more of them so we don't have to deal with them when they're older. Your agenda will rot in hell. This is the voice of resistance. President Obama on Friday met with the Dalai Lama. He is a spiritual leader from Tibet. And I'm going to let you know right up front, this is a tempest in a teapot, but let's go through the motions before making a critical observation or two. President Obama, in a White House press statement, President Obama, quote, reiterated his strong support for the preservation of Tibet's unique religious, cultural, and linguistic traditions and the protection of human rights for Tibetans. Well, China, before the meeting took place, pressed the U.S. Cancel the meeting. Cancel the meeting. And here is what the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman said. Quote, by arranging a meeting between the president and the Dalai Lama, the U.S. side will grossly interfere in the internal affairs of China, seriously violate norms of governing international relations, and severely impair China-U.S. relations. Blah, blah, blah. All right, let's all just face reality here. We're not grossly interfering in their internal anything. I mean, China still has a one-child policy, folks. They have murdered well over 200 million babies forcefully, okay? It is a crime against God. And our government, mind you, under a Republican president, gave most favored nation status to China. Most favored nation status. The only internal affairs of China that we're meddling in is helping them build up an enormous infrastructure of production, of manufacturing plants, airplane plants, truck plants. This is a joke. This is window dressing. President Obama doesn't give a darn about the human rights of the Chinese, because if he did, he would say, you know, maybe our policy is a little messed up here. What do you think, Michelle? What's that, honey? We need our trinkets at Christmas to be cheap? All right, well, as long as the circuses are being manufactured in China, we have to put the circuses that are purchased on the shelves of Walmart and Target first. Are you following me? In case this is just being too angrily said, let me calm down and say it in very calm terms. Go up and down the aisle of a Walmart or a Target or a Sears. Just randomly go through the toy section and pick up every single thing you see and see where it's made. Okay? Then go to the footwear section. Pick up every box and see where they're made. Then go to the houseware section. Look at where the mixers are made. Just pick any random part of the store, the sporting goods section, you name it. And look and see where the stuff is made. Go to the electronics area. The vast majority of it is made in China, okay? And most of it used to be made here in America. Stop and think with me that a flat screen TV when they first came out was $7,000, and now you can buy one for $200, $300, $400, okay? Why? Slave labor, right? Because China is manufacturing this stuff. The whole country is a de facto slave labor camp. They don't have freedom of religion. They are forced to murder their babies. They don't have freedom of the press. They cannot criticize their government. It's a slave labor camp with brutal murder, and we've given them most favored nation status so long as we can have our circuses on the cheap. But don't worry, America. China's not satisfied to just make our circuses. Now they want to make our daily bread. Yes. Do a little research on how many shipments the FDA rejects from China. Tilapia, for example, is a fish. It's the fourth most popular seafood in America right now, behind shrimp, tuna, and salmon. And there are boatload after boatload of Chinese tilapia that Americans won't even let in because they're feeding the fish fecal matter, pig manure, chicken manure. There are 400,000 food item manufacturing facilities in China that have 10 or less employees. In other words, they don't have the ability to even monitor what's being made and what's being shipped to us. It's really simple. We missed our window to boycott Chinese products on our circuses, but we better boycott them on our daily bread, or we might be ingesting stuff that makes us sick, physically sick. So don't eat the Chinese food. That includes you, President Obama and Michelle. Don't feed it to your kids. And to the rest of us, boycott Chinese food. Just boycott it. But to the Chinese, I want to say, you really don't have anything to worry about from President Obama. Really. Really and truly. This is the voice of resistance. Just wish we could resist more in China. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. President Obama is credited with helping one area of the economy in unprecedented growth: gun sales. Yes, gun sales. In 2012, a record-breaking 8.57 million guns were manufactured in the United States of America. That's up 31% from 2011. In fact, almost as many guns were made in Obama's first 4 years as were made in the entire 8 years of George Bush. Even Santa was complaining about the sheer number of guns he was having to deliver down the chimneys because of the weight of the things. I mean, don't get me wrong. He became a proud member of the NRA and Gun Owners of America both. Ho Prancer. Ho Dancer. Right. Okay. We're just about out of time, but I want to encourage you. Go to our website and start educating yourself. We are in the process, almost done, of making every single item that we have ever created, all of our teaching seminars, all of it, available for free online. Randall, why are you doing it? That sounds a little crazy. Well, it might be a little bit crazy. But our Lord said, freely you have received, freely give. And we've had people help us in this ministry for years. And I want to give back to the Christian community. And frankly, we need to raise up new young people, and we need to intellectually equip middle-aged people to fight and to stand against this juggernaut of evil that is destroying the country. So you say, well, what makes your products, your teachings, your videos, your books any different than anything else that's out there? I leave it to you to decide. In fact, if you're a regular viewer of this show, I think you might guess how it's a little bit different than a lot of the stuff that's out there. So go to our website. The only thing you have to give us if you want access to any of the material is your email address, so we can update you on the show or anything else that we want, and from time to time ask you to support the ministry. So if you enjoy what you see there and you want to help us with $10 or $25 or $50, by all means do so. It's how we pay for the show, but it's not required. I want to see a new generation of people cut from the spiritual fiber of King David, all right, and the early church, to come, to rise up and to take back the gates, to attack the gates of hell. And Jesus said, they won't prevail. This is the voice of resistance. Mm-hmm.